bathroom in there and everything. It's a big old house. I think it's been sold at least 5 times since we moved
then,
out.
yeah.
But in the meantime, we picked out this land and had a house built here. And finally, Mother came and lived with us. And upstairs. So then we had, of course, our daughter, Margaret. She came here when she was 6 months old. We moved to Dayton. And she went to the schools here. She did very well in school. She liked the teachers and they liked her. And she went to Princeton High School 2 years while this school was being built. And she returned and they were the first graduating class in the school. And then she went on to Gettysburg College and she took up music. She's now a music teacher in New Providence, New Jersey. So, which I was happy about. I love music.
Yes. And we have 2 grandchildren, 2 boys. And one is, in about 4 months, will be graduating law school in Cornell. And the younger one is attending Delaware University. And he's playing on the football team there.
That's Brian right there.
That's Brian.
If I do.
Yeah.
He's the football player.
Yeah.
And that's Brian's poem that he composed for his grandmother right beside him.
Oh, that's very nice.
He really surprised me one day.
Try and do this without making it too jerky. Okay.
It's the one on the right-hand side. The other poem my other grandson sent through a nice card.
Mr. Von Thun, when you went to New Brunswick High School,
New Brunswick High.
that was on Livingston Avenue
That was
then?
on Livingston Avenue then.
So you used to walk from the station up to
Yeah,
the...
Yeah, that's right.
Now, when I went to high school, I took the train out of Monmouth Junction. I could walk through the farm, the driveway went right over to the branch of the Pennsylvania Railroad. And I'd walk that branch all the way over to Monmouth Junction and get on the train in the morning. And then, of course, it was quite a hike from the railroad station to the high school. But there were several of us. The train stopped at Deans that time. And it also stopped at Adams, so we picked up pupils from there. So the time we got to New Brunswick, we had maybe 10 or 15 students, so we all walked together. So it worked out very well. Of course, today
Did Fred Lutman go?
No, Fred Lutman
No.
went to Jamesburg.
Oh.
I was the only one out of South Brunswick that went to New Brunswick at that time. But we enjoyed it, and we didn't mind the snowstorms and that we had to walk.
Well, I went to Trenton State Teachers, and I will recommend it to anyone. It's a school that teaches methods. I guess your wife teaches too.
Yes.
And I always felt adequately prepared, at least in the way to teach and what needed to be taught. And I was very happy that I had gone there. And I taught here the township 20 years, 10 in Deans and 10 in Dayton. And I met a lot. I had a lot of children, several hundred. Yeah. I taught my own daughter, in the 4th grade. I don't know if she was happy about it.
Probably was.
She was a good girl. She was a very good girl.
She's a cooperator.
Yes, she did. She did. And she still does with everything.
That's good.
Of course, we have seen a lot of changes in the government of South Brunswick. When I was a youngster, I believe the committee only met maybe 4 times a year. And they would meet in the various homes of the committee members. We had no road department, we had no police department. In fact, I guess most of the people in the community didn't even know there was a township committee because there wasn't hardly anything for them to do. And then as it got busier, they met in the schools, and then of course later on they built the municipal building. But it just shows you how as people move in, there's more demand, and crime goes up and so forth, and it takes much more service. But we had...
Herman seemed to enjoy his work there. It was 17 years. We were looking today at the certificate they gave him.
Yes, that was what?
17 years and the 2 boards. He worked on the 2 boards. And then he quit once and then went back again 5 years later.
That was planning board and zoning board?
And zoning,
Yeah, planning
yes.
and zoning, yeah.
And he made a lot of good friends. And there's 1 or 2 that's still on there, believe it or not.
And Harry Morse just quit.
Right.
He just resigned here this year.
Right.
Yeah.
He was on for, I guess, about 30 years. So that's a long time
Yeah.
on one board.
Mhm.
You know. But I can remember Mr. Pearson, he was clerk of the Township Committee.
That's right.
Mhm.
And when I was treasurer of the township, I was treasurer for 3 years. I would have to take all of the papers over to him. So I would get all of the checks and everything ready, and then I would take them over to his house in the morning. So I said to him, how soon can I come? Well, he said, I'm up at 6 o'clock, so he says, you can come as early as you want. So I'd take them over there, all the checks and all the papers, before I went to work. Drop them off at his house, and then he would sign them, and then bring them back to the township meeting at night. So it's really changed.
Really changed,
In
yeah.
that respect, you know. But, and also the board meetings have changed now, they're televised, and when I was first on the board, we didn't have the sunshine law that they've had for years, where everything has to be done in public. There were certain things that if you wanted to discuss privately, you could go into the rear room and discuss it, and then come out and continue. But I think this way it's much better because everything is out in the open.
The hours got to be pretty late too.
Yes.
By the time he retired from it,
Mhm.
2 and 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And that was a little too much too,
Yes.
you know.
Mhm.
I guess they're still doing that. I think the hours are still late.
Oh, yeah. I think the last year or two, we tried to cut it off at 11 o'clock because after 11 o'clock, you can't think straight
Right.
anymore.
Right.
Not
You're
bad.
making
You're
decisions
better off,
when you're very
continuing
tired.
it the next time.
So I'm sure you saw a lot of planning changes on that board, a lot of master plans.
Oh,
and-
yeah, yeah,
Well, one of the biggest ones in the beginning was Kendall Park.
yeah, yeah.
And of course, they had big meetings
Mm.
and the man from our church was in charge of that. Was he? He was on the township committee, was he? Mr. Pripke?
Oh, yeah, he was on.
And they had big meetings in our school. See, then they didn't have places to have meetings. And most everything was in the school. And, oh, they had meeting after meeting on that project. And look how it has grown.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was the beginning of the big development in the township.
It was the first one.
I really think South Brunswick has grown too fast. It'd been nice if they could have slowed it up. And we don't have any more open space. I hate to see all this farmland being developed.
Yeah, it was very productive farmland too.
Yeah,
It
that
is.
was the
Very
best
rich.
farmland in
Yeah.
South Brunswick was at Forescate Farm. And we can't replace it.
Never.
So
It's too
it
bad.
breaks my heart when I see all those. It was serving a good purpose for South Brunswick. But it's all lost now, you can't.
And we have the trouble with the road projects too.
Yes.
I don't think we'll live to see them, but finished, any of them.
Now 522, I don't know when they'll ever get that done. We really need it because congestion, this road's getting really congested now.
They
Now
all-
we're getting a lot of over-the-road drivers from different areas. They don't take the turnpike, but they're taking 95 and then Route 1 and coming through here.
They're coming right through here all night.
Yeah, they want to save the money. The turnpike's so expensive.
That's right, yeah, sure.
And if they have engine trouble, it's right out here. If they make a wrong turn and turn around, it's right out here. And these things do happen all the time. Of course, I've gotten a little bit used to it. I mean, it doesn't keep me awake. But I hear it sometimes, and it's frightening, even in the daytime, and you wonder, well, what's wrong, you know? And they're backing up or turning around or in the wrong. And when you get a big trailer doing that, you think of an accident or something like that, you know. And I always run to the window to see what it is. But we've been all right so far. Yeah.
But I think for transportation, I need the car more now than I did years ago. Because when I was a youngster, the grocer came to the house, the butcher came
That's
there.
right.
And the mailman came.
Was it Mr.
and,
Watkins who used to come? You ever hear about him?
No.
No.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about him?
Yeah, well, we had a nice little truck, and we came around every week.
He had clothes, and he had prescriptions, and he had
Medicine.
and
And
almost
you could
anything
order
you want.
ahead,
Yeah.
and he would bring it the next time. And we had the milkman, the baker. We had all these conveniences when we moved here.
And the gas man, for the little gas we used on the farm, he would come every week, and he'd have these big, heavy cans. They'd be like big milk cans, but they were for gas. And he'd put them and get them off the truck, and we'd have a container in the garage. He'd pour the gas in there. So you didn't even have to get your gasoline. They brought kerosene. So everything was really brought to the farm that you needed. And of course, in the winter, Dad would butcher all of his pigs and cows and one thing and another that he wanted to for the winters.
Chickens.
So and chickens. We had all of our meat.
What's the story about the chickens? Your nephew's is good.
Oh, the nephew in his book, he said.
Oh, yeah.
He said that he can remember his grandfather cutting the chicken's neck off, and then it would walk around in the field for a while.
He became a minister. He's a Lutheran minister. And he just wrote a book, and we've been reading it. And we came across this part in the book. And, oh, it's so humorous, the whole book is. But he was a missionary also. And let's see, was it?
Lutheran.
Yeah, it was a Lutheran missionary in the beginning, and met his wife, and they married. But then they were imprisoned.
Well, during the World War, he was imprisoned in China, in Japan.
3 years, I
Yeah.
think it was.
World War II?
Yeah, he was in Japan.
Really hardship, really hard.
He never knew when he was going to be killed or anything. That was quite an ordeal. Yeah.
But he's done a good job. He's taught in a university out there in Minneapolis. And he's now retired, of course. He's in his 80s.
That's your nephew?
That's my nephew.
His nephew is almost as old as he is.
Yeah, he's 83. Yeah.
And he's 85.
Oh,
I'm 82.
Doing fine, you're doing
Yeah,
fine.
I have another
So I
nephew
hope
that,
people will forgive me if they don't understand.
Oh, you're doing perfect.
I have another nephew that's passed away, but he was older than I was. That's from my first sister that I never knew for several years. Yeah.
Well, you know, a lot of families have these big age differences. If there's a big family, you know, spread out.
Well,
And years ago, there were more big families than I guess
Oh, yeah,
not.
yeah.
I think the Pieta family is the oldest,
The largest that we've
had
spoken,
the
yeah.
largest that we've
Yeah. Uh-huh.
spoken
Yeah.
to. At 14.
That's a lot of children, right? 14.
But this area, Dayton, that it was farming and the railroad. That's
Yeah.
and the
Yes.
services, the butcher
Yes.
and so forth. That was the
Yeah.
way to make a living.
Yeah, it was all farming, really.
We don't mind having the train over there, but I guess the way the building has been lately, the people who live near it, it's really a hardship to have a train running. So I don't know what they'll do about it. They're still working on it, you know.
It's not gone away.
No,
No.
it's gone away.
Of course, having experienced all of this transportation that we had, train transportation, public transportation, I can see where it would really be a benefit because it would take a lot of cars off the road.
Right, and people
And-
get places quicker,
That's right.
cheaper, less fuel used.
Yeah. And look at all the freight that the Pennsylvania Railroad took care of that time. It's all by truck now. So it has advantages to bring it back, but I doubt whether it'll ever come back.
I don't know if anybody had mentioned about the old blacksmith shop at the corner.
No,
Yeah,
you
what
can
do
tell,
you think?
yeah, no, tell us please.
Way down the corner, you know where Nina Potter lives. And that area, you can tell me
Around the
better
corner,
about it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the blacksmith, of course, that time was all horses, so we had a lot of horseshoeing to do. And the farmers would bring in their horses, and he would shoe the horses. And the anvil there, the red hot anvil, and when I was coming back from school, I'd stop in, and he'd let me take the tongs and hold the horseshoe over the fire, you know, to get the red hot, and then he'd take them and shoe the horses. So that was a wonderful experience, you know.
It was Mr. Bastido.
That time it was Mr. Bastido, you
And
know,
then right down here where Mr.
the harness shop, yeah. Mr. Lutman had his,
had a
Chris
harness
Lutman
shop.
had his harness shop.
It's where the antique shop is now. That was the harness shop.
That's still
Maybe
there,
you
the
know
building
that.
is still there.
Mm.
He
When
had
I-
his harness shop in George's Road, right near the schoolhouse there.
Then it changed to a garage or something. I remember there was Sid Smalley had a garage there.
Well,
Is that the
yeah,
same
that's-
area?
Yeah,
Down
that's
the
where the
corner.
present garage is. But this was just a small building. It was like a little one room, half a room really.
But I mean, on this corner right here, didn't Sid Smalley have a garage over here first before he moved over
No,
to the other one?
that was
Or-
Mark Coles had the,
Right.
had
Oh,
the,
okay,
had the
okay.
garage there.
Yeah.
There was- I remember there was a garage, I thought it was,
Yeah,
I
that was
correct me,
Mark
That's
Coles.
right.
Mark Coles.
Yeah.
And was that the same area the blacksmith was in then?
The blacksmith shop was where the,
Right
you
across
know where the
from it.
post office is now?
Mm-hmm.
Right, almost at that area on
Oh.
Joe Noble's property. He had his blacksmith shop there. And after school, I can remember John Barkley had an apple farm over on the Dye Road. Well, he would take the trolley every night or every afternoon to go home, and that's how he got to Dayton, by trolley, by the fast line. So we'd always have to stop in at the harness shop. He had a mechanism there with some kind of a toy that interested us. So he'd always start that toy up, and we'd sit there, and he would tell us stories, you know.
Did you say the post office moved 4 times,
Oh, yeah, the post office moved several times.
or was it 5?
Sounds like Mom's Junction.
Where were the locations?
moved.
Yeah, but where were the locations?
Well, there were 2 stores in Dayton, 2 grocery stores in the early 1900s.
Oh, those big hotels
And,
too. I
The
don't know.
first time that I can remember the post office was in Vanderveer's store. Then it moved to Ely's store. And from Ely's store it went to Mr. Lipman. He had an ice cream parlor on the corner. So he had the post office for a good many years. And he moved, built a new place on George's Road, a little further toward New Brunswick. So then the post office moved to that location. But while he was building that, he had the post office moved across the street to that double house right there by the cemetery. So the post office was in there for a while. So it moved around quite a bit. And of course then it moved a few more times because there was another lady had the post office right near the Dayton School.
Mrs. Latzo.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
so
yeah.
cute.
she had the post office for a
That's
while.
right, yeah, that's right. We used to catch the bus there to go to Jamesburg High School,
That's right.
and they had the post office.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was nice.
She was very nice. So it had its roots moved several times.
Yeah, well, we kind of helped with this new post office too in a way,
Yeah,
didn't you?
yeah.
Let's see, who was the first, the postmistress?
Mrs.
Mrs. B.
B, Mrs. B.
Mrs. B.
He needed some help from the senator. or
Helped in
something,
there
so-
that way to get that.
So I knew he was
yeah.
going to be in Hightstown at a certain time, so I arranged for her to get down there so that she could get some arrangements made to get Washington to okay the post office.
Well, then years ago, we had 2 big hotels down there, not when I was here, but I heard all about it. And I guess they had a lot of summer visitors.
They were
Activity.
winter visitors.
Winter?
Oh, yeah, they came out of New York. They were supposed to be a health resort. So there were two motels, or not motel, hotels. There were 3 stories,
Yeah,
4-story
beautiful
structure.
buildings.
One was the Pinter Hotel and the other one was the Wines Hotel. They were right opposite each other. So somebody got the bright idea that this was a healthy resort for the winter time. So the New York people would come out in the winter and they would stay here for the winter.
My goodness.
And that's how that happened. And after a while, Lakewood took over, I think, or was Lakehurst, I guess, or somewhere they went there.
Oh, yeah,